The unicorn lived in a lilac wood, and she lived all alone, because Saruman attacked with his magic Red Bull and wiped out all the unicorns, and this is Night of the Theatah. Hey guys, so we just went to go see a screening of The Last Unicorn, the single manliest film of all time. I'm here with Kevin and his girlfriend Ashley. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
I felt my testosterone double.
Oh, your testosterone has been doubled along with the fun?
Along with the fun.
Along with the fun.
I had fun once. It was awful.
How did we not make all of the My Little Pony jokes all the way through this?
Well, I feel like they made themselves.
Yeah, kind of. This was kind of Celestia's story. Now, I watched this movie quite some, very long time ago when I was a kid. I very rarely differentiated between the boys and the girls movies, so I watched both the Lord of the Rings animated film as well as this sort of thing when I would go out to a Blockbuster video and pick up things. So I enjoyed seeing this movie all over again, and I know, Ashley, you're a fan. Why don't you talk a little bit about why you're a fan and what your experience with this movie is?
Well, I definitely enjoyed seeing it on the big screen compared to seeing it at home, whether it was because it was on TV like it used to be so often in the early 90s, versus having to go out and get the DVD and watch it on my own time. I actually have probably seen this movie close to 100 times just because I grew up on it, watching it with my grandmother because it was her favorite movie. Okay. So we constantly watched it when she babysat me, so I literally grew up with this being one of those movies so for me.
Yeah, you're talking about nostalgic movies is like the nostalgic movie for you.
It was this and Labyrinth.
Yeah, okay, cool. Alright. That's another really, really good one. So you enjoyed that movie. Like, what did you think about the way it was shown on the screen? Did you think that it looked better than it usually does? Do you think it was detracted a little bit from it? What do you think?
It was nice to have it come through so clear versus just, movies when they used to come on TV, having to deal with commercials, quality not being quite up to par the way it is now because I'm sure they used the digitally enhanced version. Mm-hmm. So the colors, the lines, it was definitely more enjoyable just to have it so nicely put together. Lots
and lots of good definition in there. All the shots in that movie just look like paintings. Mm-hmm. They just look like these beautiful, just like acrylic paintings. You can almost see canvas lines when you're watching this movie.
Definitely.
And it's just
great artwork.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and even more so in this movie. I mean, the colors were just crisper. The lines were more defined, but you never really lost that canvas quality. Just that this is a sequence of painting is going across the film reel. It's not a series of film frames. Mm-hmm. Kevin, you're fairly new to this movie. What did you think?
Up until how long ago? 4 months ago, maybe? I had no idea what this even was. And it seems to have only been in the last 12 hours that I've just been swept away into this universe of which I'd only, dipped my toe in the water that one time, and I was very unsettled by what I saw. But having actually gone and sat through it, there were certain qualities that stood out that made me enjoy it, because it is by no means a movie that I liked and would revisit and would say, that plot really spoke to me, sort of thing. I didn't get it, but there were certain things that just kept me on it that I can go, you know what? I have no problem sitting through this. One of which was the art. Again, we talked about just absolutely beautiful. Other thing was the phenomenal cast for something, I don't even want to say it's obscure, because it's not really obscure, especially at the time.
It's a cult classic.
Exactly, but just kind of Jeff Bridges, and he had a big role, and I was like, oh no, that'll keep me in for the whole thing. And then Christopher Lee, and I'm just kind of like, the fun has been doubled.
Mia Farrow.
Sure.
Alan Arkin.
Very young Alan Arkin. I'm sorry, I love sassy
very young
old,
Jeff Bridges.
But I love sassy old Alan Arkin. I mean, I know he always plays that wisecracking sort of guy in all his movies right now, but it's he kind of just sounded like any sort of young actor. You couldn't really pick up into that Alan Arkin sort of thing in his voice, but he did well in this movie, not to detract from his performance or anything like that.
Angela Lansbury.
Oh God, I love Angela.
But it's like I said, and we talked about this very briefly, I noticed that the quality of what was shown to us was quite a little bit better than what you'd shown me. Which is to say, we can safely bet that they used the polished version they happen to have. Because I'm sure with this big thing, they're going to want to promote it as best they can and not show you the old, outdated...
This is the exclusive Canadian tour, limited screenings, sold right out. So.
Yeah. And it just goes to show you how much people like this movie. Like, I mean, we were there, and it was pretty sold out. I mean, they said sold out, and it was pretty sold out. Like, there were pretty decent lines. I mean, you had pretty good timing. You pretty much snapped in all the time. It was pretty quick about all of your autograph stuff and buying all your
I was the first in line the first time, and then medium ground as far as getting the raffled graphic novel signed.
She won a hardcover graphic novel. That's pretty awesome. It was pretty good. And she got to talk to the author.
And then happened to get it signed by the author of The Last Unicorn.
Yeah.
Just happened to have a casual conversation with the author at the beginning there.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun.
He happened to be discussing with the lady beside me when she was discussing getting things signed about how, on occasion, he actually signs, "Have a taco, Peter Beagle." Just because it's one of his favorite lines from the movie.
There's just these little things, like, just modern things, like, have a taco. Like, out of nowhere, just come in, sit down, have a taco. What the fuck? We have tacos here? Like some Viking Robin Hood sort of thing going on, and they've got tacos.
They went from rat soup to tacos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have, like, rat soup to go around, but he's talking about tacos.
Yeah.
This movie was, like... I personally, having not seen it for a very, very long time, like, when I was a kid, it was just another really, really cool fantasy movie for me. It looked really nice. I loved the really cool animation, and I loved fantasy stories. I loved all the sword and sorcery stories, and I loved the idea of the underdog wizard. Schmendrick was one of my favorite characters, but I'm not going to say that it's gotten a little bit lame, because like I have seen better animated films. Like it's not like it's shown on the screen for me now that I've watched it a little bit later on in my life, but it wasn't like I enjoyed seeing it quite a lot. Like it wasn't a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just it was like I've seen a lot of animated movies, and I understand why this is a cult classic, but it's not. I'm very much with Kevin in that it's not a movie designed for me. It's pretty unicorns and really, really cool, pretty pastel settings. It's not exactly built for a male audience, even though, you know, as a guy I watch the movie and I don't mind it at all. It's just, there's still that bit of saccharine quality there that it makes it a little bit more of a slow sit through for me. I don't know, would you agree about that? That sort of...
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it wasn't that I was getting bored or anything, but I felt like towards the climax, things were a little elongated because it was, you know, hitting a very artsy high. I mean, not that the movie, like, overplayed the whole artsy idea, that they kind of knew that the animation was pretty top-notch for the time.
Sure.
It aged well visually.
No, absolutely.
Definitely.
But that's just it. We were talking about it.
From a storytelling perspective, it might be a little dry.
What kind of got me into this, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but, you know, oh yeah, I saw the old Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies done by...
Ralph Bakshi?
Yes.
Yeah.
And just so to kind of go in with that background knowledge of this is who animated it, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, that's something to go off of. And just it's like, I found... I got more out of it than I thought I would. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna just say that I didn't get what I expected, that's for sure. It definitely wasn't as much whimsy as I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna play up like, you know, all the fairies and, you know, mythical creatures in the forest. No, it was just a very streamlined story about this unicorn and the interaction with these people. It was a lot cleaner than I thought it was going to be. It was a lot nicer. It had a lot more to offer.
This movie was really, really Bakshi. Like it was a Rankin Bass production. Those people who do those really, really creepy Christmas specials with the puppets and the slithering Santa Claus going all through the snow. How does he move? I want to know. It's very, very pretty, and I've seen quite a few Bakshi flicks. I've seen Wizards. I've seen the Coonskin. I've seen Fritz the Cat. I've seen all those guys, and it. Animation-wise, while it is a lot prettier and a lot more cleaned up, I could see it in its like VHS primeval form, looking a lot like those movies. Very rotoscoped, very, very gritty in terms of its animation, even though it would still keep that painting quality. The storytelling, I will say that I've seen better. Ralph Bakshi's an animator and he's a director and he didn't write this or anything like that. It's just I've seen better animated films by him with more complex stories. This was very much a simple sort of point A to point B story. There was a simple quest, like we want to find the unicorns. They don't really have all that much information going on through it. It's a simple but effective quest. I mean, they're going in a direction with a goal. There's a lot of really, really good stuff that could come from that. It's just when they got to that destination, they stayed there a little bit too long, and there wasn't enough meat in between the start and getting to that destination.
I was going to say, it was very contained geographically.
Yeah.
They were in the same place for about 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah.
Just there was a setup, and then they were at the castle.
Yep.
For the whole movie.
Yeah, for a movie that's sort of if you're going to do a sword and sorcery heroine's quest journey to find her family or what have you, there needs to be a good variety of events going on all the way through the story, and it was very much just we're going on our journey. Now we're going to meet up with the witch, played by Angela Lansbury, and now we're at this castle. Really just 3 locations, and they're very confined to one another. They don't look, they're very varied, don't get me wrong. I mean, one's a giant stone castle looking very, very precarious on a little ridge sort of thing. That thing was a disaster waiting to happen. I don't know why you would want to live in that thing. And the other one was just a sort of traveling circus show, and the rest of it is just woods. Those are our 3 locations. And it just it was hard to keep your interest very focused when it's just staying in these same sort of locations. That being said, with the visuals, it manages to captivate. I mean, you can watch it and enjoy it. It's just there's going to be a little bit of a nagging sensation in the back of your head going, okay, let's get some variety in here. If you're anything like me and how you watch movies. That's pretty much what I've got. Final thoughts from you two?
I don't know. Like I said, it was a lot better than I gave it credit for, that's for sure. But I believe that was due to, like I said, the parts, like the components of this movie that I just happened to take from. It wasn't necessarily the story that did it for me. It was just, ooh, that actor, oh, the art's really nice. Like, you know what I mean? It was just...
This movie was a sum of parts for you. And
entirely. And it's just... The sum of its parts was just kind of... In the grand scale, it's kind of...
You like
Avatar.
You like this movie mechanically.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like what Avatar was. When Avatar came out, and everyone, this is the best movie ever. I go, no, it's the prettiest movie you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie. It is, however, incredibly pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just that sort of line of thinking for me.
You can watch better animated films, you can watch better Ralph Bakshi animated films, but
this was alright.
But for what it is, it's a really, really good sit-through.
Yep.
That's what I'd say. And you obviously love this movie.
Yeah. It's always going to be close to my heart, so it's just... I'm never going to lose that I love this movie sensation about it.
Well, why don't you, before we close up, why don't you just say a little bit about what you know about the tour and just how much you enjoyed the panel aspect of it.
Sure, it was definitely nice to have that feeling watching it with a group of people, noticing everybody laughing and reacting the same way at the different bits when Schmendrick's with the tree, or just the little phrases from Molly, just her very abrupt, straight to the point sort of attitude when she's talking, and just everyone picking up on the same emotions. And then having that Q&A with the actual author was nice to get that background, him talking about his inspiration, why he wrote the book. The fact that it may not have happened if his wife hadn't pushed him because he was busy putting food on the table for his children, and it took her pushing him to actually finish the story, or else we may not have even had it in the first place.
Did having the author in the room sort of change the atmosphere for you a little bit?
I guess a little. It made it a little bit more than just a movie. I think it felt more tangible just to kind of get his side of the story.
It kind of felt
why is there the last unicorn?
It's very familiar to like how I show movies to people, because it felt very much to me just like a person sitting down in a room with a bunch of people and saying, here's a cool movie I made when I was younger, or that I wrote, like based on a book that I wrote when I was younger, and it's really, really cool. Let's watch it together. Yeah, it was a really personal experience, I find. I think that's really cool.
I thought about it only very immediately at the very beginning of the movie. I'm watching the opening credits. I wonder if he gets tired of watching this over the course of his tour. Like, okay, because he's probably not a narcissist, it's like, how much can you watch your own movie before you go, you know what, I'm just going to sit this one out.
He did the entire American tour as well, though, on top of his Canadian
So it's just kind of like, how long do you do that before you just kind of go, you know what, enjoy, I'm going to go sit elsewhere.
Well, he doesn't sit in the movie with us, so...
Do you know what I think it is? I think he'd spend most of his time sort of assessing the people around him. Seeing... I think for him, it's less of an experience of just... For him, I don't think it would be, I'm sitting through this movie again. I think it would be more of a, oh man, another auditorium of people to sit through this movie with and just see how they're liking my story.
And he was very good about just chatty, just talking with every single person who lined up for an autograph or to speak with him or take a photo. He was just nonstop babble. Yeah. He just had so much to say. He just was so willing to communicate and participate in the situation, and that's always nice to see.
Yeah.
When the authors are willing to spend that time with their fans rather than just be very, okay, I signed it, go away, bye.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to kind of, okay, I'm gonna go now, and there's lots more people to talk to. Have a good night.
Well, I think that's I think that's about it for this entry of Night at the Theatah. I'm Paul. This is Ashley and Kevin. We will be seeing you again the next time we all see a movie that would interest all three of us. Because we do it for all of them. Bye!
The live action film.
Yes. We'll see you again for the live action film. See ya!